In Cuba, these men are celebrated as national heroes. They all lived in Florida and were, according to their supporters, intelligence officers who helped prevent terrorist attacks on Cuban soil. But in 1998, all five were charged with being part of a Cuban spy ring known as the WASP network. They were accused of infiltrating anti-Castro groups in Miami and passing on information about US military bases. Their sentences ranged from 15 years to life without parole. Now, after 13 years, Rene Gonzales is the first of the men to be released. His wife heard the news in Havana.
The
family is very happy. On the one side, the prison term has finished. All the humiliations, bad treatment, all the risks that we went through inside jail, the same as what's happening to his four companions, has finished. Now comes another period that should be happy, at home in his homeland.
The release of Rene Gonzales hasn't led to any visible reaction here on the streets of Little Havana. The relationship between this community and Cuba has changed drastically over the years, and more moderate voices now dominate the conversation. But for the older generation who remember the crimes the Cuban Five were charged with, there's no sense they'll ever be forgiven. At the Cuban-American National Foundation, news of Mr. Gonzales' release came as no surprise to Francisco Hernandez. He says all of the so-called Cuban Five are traitors.
There's no forgiving until after things change in Cuba. I mean, the Castro regime continues to use the same methods, the same repression that they were using. They continue to spy on us here.
But there are those in the US who believe the Cuban Five should never have been locked up, and Mr. Gonzales' release now gives them hope.
The Cuban Five to us are heroes and to the people of Cuba, because without weapons, but only with their eyes and ears, they were monitoring terrorist organizations in Miami. Rene Gonzales' release is extremely important because he is the first of the Cuban Five, and it gives the rest of the supporters hope that all five will be home sometime soon.
There are appeals to allow him to return to Cuba, where he'd receive a hero's welcome. But under the terms of his release, Rene Gonzales, an American citizen, must now serve 3 years of probation in the US before he can go anywhere. Andy Gallacher, Jazeera, Miami, Florida.